Hi everyone, and welcome back. Today we're talking about the toxins and irritants that sabotage our attempts to heal, from chronic illness, pain, or the more commonplace low energy, brain fog, or failure to thrive. We got to get these roadblocks to healing out of our way first, or none of our other efforts to heal, the positive things that we do to take care of ourselves, are going to work for us. So last time we talked about how letting go may well be the hardest part of healing because it shows us what we're hanging on to feel safe and comfortable and perhaps to assuage emotional suffering. And we may not have known that some of our old bad habits served that function for us. It's not until we give something up that we find ourselves grieving the loss or feeling deprived or flipping right out of our skin that we realize what the old habit or toxic story actually did for us. So recall what many of us must learn to let go of to unleash our healing and establish our core resilience. Letting go of toxins and irritants, negative energy and distraction, letting go of disempowering stories and trauma. So these are the core, let's just say, domains of letting go that we must tend to create space for healing to occur. So, and these are the things that get in the way of healing. These roadblocks to healing are the biggies for most of us. And we'll start today by exploring the toxins and irritants that can block the healing process. So this is where we're going today, okay? Any one of them, of the common toxins and irritants, can keep us stuck in a biological equilibrium that does not support the vital wellness that we seek. In fact, toxicity may be part of the root cause of our becoming ill or not feeling well. Most of us have more than one of these to deal with. The common toxins and irritants have synergistic effects. That is, beyond one, they amplify their effects. They become even more toxic. So, what are the most common toxins and irritants that we must learn to recognize and avoid? These are the big 8 to be most concerned with. Okay, so first, pesticides, herbicides, and industrial pollutants. That's a big category, but we're going to break this down. And then we have molds and mold toxins. Okay? And then toxic buildings. Heavy metals. Plastics. Toxic buildings. Toxic water. And last but certainly not least, toxic and irritating food. Okay, so these are the biggies, okay? These are the big and most ubiquitous toxins and irritants that challenge us the most. And we must consider two key components to fully addressing toxicity. First is avoidance, to keep the body burden or exposure of toxins and irritants as low as possible. And then supporting the body's innate detoxification processes to clear those toxins when there is an exposure. And we're designed to do this, okay? So many of these things that we've listed here are challenging, very challenging to avoid completely. We encounter them in realms of our lives that we don't have much control over. You know it's a toxic world. However, we can choose to avoid these within our own homes and workplaces to minimize toxicity. I live in Iowa, and I fully recognize that I'm surrounded by farm chemicals, and there's nothing whatsoever I can do about that at this moment, right? It's a force to be reckoned with. And the use of lawn chemicals is so widespread amongst neighbors and fellow city dwellers. It's just become part of daily life, and it's not going to change overnight. So I know I have to robustly take care of myself, and I'm going to share how I do that. So first, let's talk about avoidance, okay? And let's briefly go through each one of our 8 categories and touch on ways that each one of us can avoid them. So first, pesticides, herbicides, and industrial pollutants. Okay, so do your best to avoid these within your own homes, yards, workplaces, the places that you are most likely able to control. There are always safe alternative strategies for managing pests and undesired growth of weeds, for instance. And a simple Google search will show you countless options. In my area, prairie restoration versus grass, which is a huge source of consumption of resources and an exposure to toxins is an option. Or corn gluten application as a pre-emergent to keep the weeds under control in the spring works incredibly well. And then there's, of course, good old-fashioned weeding the garden by hand, all viable options. And there's a growing literature and talent and experience with organic farming methods that I won't go into with you here because there's so much to say, but this information is out there and it's being used with great success, not only from a production standpoint, but also the ability to concentrate nutrients and using the land in a sustainable way. And I fully realize most of us have no immediate recourse regarding industrial pollutants. And we can be vocal activists, knowing that this is a long-standing worldwide problem that is not going to change overnight. As much as possible, though, eat only organic food to reduce the amount of food-growing chemicals that you directly ingest. And again, we control what we can, right? Okay, let's jump into the next one. Mold and mold toxins. It's impossible to avoid mold entirely. It's part of our biome. It's in the soil, on the plants, in the air. But excesses of mold, particularly in our homes or workplaces, where ventilation may not be optimal, or in folks already hovering at a very vulnerable health equilibrium, can powerfully ignite our immune responses, leading to excesses of inflammation. And mold toxins can cause a myriad toxicity problems and must be cleared efficiently by our bodies in order for us to stay safe and healthy. Mold avoidance includes identifying and completely remediating water damage that occurs in our homes and workplaces, preferably by a professional mold remediation specialist, or rapidly addressing a water problem within minutes or hours of onset with rapid drying and removal of all the organic materials where mold can grow. Air purification systems will reduce mold and mold toxin levels. And I like the high-grade IQ air which will remove mold spores and mold toxins from the environment. So that leads us to toxic buildings. Building toxicity often occurs as a result of the things we just discussed. Toxic chemicals, mold from water damage, and poor ventilation, which concentrates these things in the environment. This would also include building materials and toxins used in the manufacture of furniture, window treatments, beds, carpets, flooring, etc. Numerous chemicals are used as flame retardants, glues, etc. that get into our bodies. And if they're in the environment at all, there's always a risk for absorption through our lungs, skin, or mouths, and they must be processed and eliminated by our detoxification systems. Many individuals will feel unwell, some quite ill in these more toxic buildings. So proper ventilation, remediation of water-damaged areas, air treatment, and removal of particularly toxic items is always necessary. And some folks who are particularly sensitive need to avoid buildings in which they feel unwell entirely. All right, heavy metals. So these are tricky. Where are they? They're essentially everywhere, in the land, oceans, and air masses worldwide. And while some is naturally occurring, they exist primarily as industrial air, water, and land pollution. So heavy metals are in our soils. Even with recent stricter industrial regulations in the Western world, heavy metals can still travel to the West in large air masses from other parts of the world without the same environmental protection standards. And they've also become more of a problem with the recent surge in forest fires. Heavy metals are carried by smoke and inhaled by the many humans affected over large areas. They're dumped in the soils and they become a part of our everyday life. Our food supply is contaminated with them. Freshwater fish and larger predator ocean fish are especially contaminated with high levels of mercury. You can track which fish are the most contaminated on the EPA website when making your choices for what types of fish to consume. And then there's still a habit of using silver dental fillings, which contain mercury. Oddly still common in dental practice, in spite of studies that confirm higher blood and tissue levels of mercury in dental health practitioners. No mercury is safe. There is no amount of mercury at all that is safe for humans, no matter what you may be told by your dentist. So then let's talk about toxic body care products, which I failed to put on my list here. I'm going to put it right here. So toxic body care and household products. Okay, there we go. I thought I was missing one. Most body care or household cleaning products with more than 1 to 3 ingredients will contain toxins. So that's a good rule of thumb when you're selecting your products. These are ingredients that affect genetic expression or physiology in some way that is unhealthy or has to be cleared from the body through our detoxification pathways, using up valuable biochemical resources and perhaps leaving the body vulnerable. So many of these toxins have also been shown to have a direct toxic or immunological effect on our bodies. So absolutely avoid phthalates and parabens, which are in many body care products, triclosan, which is an antibacterial soap ingredient, aluminum found in antiperspirants, and formaldehydes and sodium hydroxide, which are found in many hair products. Check out greenamerica.org for more information about choosing safe body care and household cleaning products. We use so many of them in the typical American household. It's really important to be aware of what they contain. Okay? Plastics, next on our list. So plastics contain breakdown products that disrupt our complex hormonal systems, and they're hard to detoxify and remove from the human body. In addition, single-use plastics are not biodegradable, and they're creating a massive ecological problem worldwide due to these enormous collections that are forming virtual islands and disrupting planetary water distribution. They leach toxic breakdown products and microplastics that pollute planetary water supplies, leading to widespread destruction of planetary ecosystems that affects all of us. So avoid single-use plastic like grocery bags, water bottles, produce and prepared food. Use your own grocery and produce bags and reusable stainless steel or glass water bottles. And always avoid heating food in plastic. So that will amplify the leaching of the plastic breakdown products. And store your food in glass containers when at all possible. Okay, let's look at toxic and irritating food. So this is a huge topic on its own, and we're going to circle back to it when we tackle the nourish section of our core resilience strategy. But for now, let's touch on the big issues regarding toxicity and the irritating nature of some foods. So the most problematic foods in terms of their impact on human health worldwide are sugars, which includes processed grains, and the so-called new-to-nature food additives that are used as colorants and preservatives. So regarding sugar, it's just a toxin, period. In fact, it's the most ubiquitous and devastating toxin to humans on the face of the planet. When we look at the sheer numbers of people on this planet suffering from metabolic chronic illness that directly relates to the sugar content and nutrient depletion of typical modern diets. Our bodies devote an enormous amount of energy and physiological real estate to managing the levels of blood sugar or glucose in the blood for this very reason, because it's so toxic to our bodies at certain levels. Sugar in excess of what our bodies need to manufacture energy in any given moment will be stored as fat, glycogen, and the rest will glom onto cellular proteins. This attachment process damages the proteins. This leads to loss of their vital functions and elicits a destructive immune response. So these are the mechanisms that are involved in the complications of diabetes that we're all familiar with. And this damage begins long before average blood sugar levels reach the conventional diabetes range. In addition, as if that's not enough, the extra calories from sugar-containing diets are stored as fat and is a leading contributor to obesity and chronic metabolic disorders like diabetes, hypertension, vascular diseases, and dementia, all devastating and common chronic diseases worldwide. Refined grain products present the same problem. I'll be talking about all the grains common, so I'll be talking more about this later, but we're talking about grains that are commonly used in cereals, crackers, baked goods, pastas, breads, and so on. These are rapidly digested into sugar and are devoid of any significant nutritional value. So think of these as sugar, okay? In addition, today's genetically engineered grains are higher in carbohydrate content, and they're extensively treated with pesticides and herbicides like glyphosate, the most ubiquitous herbicide on the planet, considered by the World Health Organization to be a well-established carcinogen in humans, yet still extensively used worldwide. So refined carbohydrate products like cereals, breads, pastas, crackers, and baked goods are toxic to humans for their high sugar content. Also, their extensive contamination with toxins, okay? Woo, sugar. All right, we'll get back to that. Okay, toxic. Water. So planetary water supplies are mostly extensively polluted, filled with carcinogens, endocrine disruptors, heavy metals, and plastics, and they taste terrible. Do what you can to not add to planetary pollution by all the ways we've already touched on, and just absolutely filter all the water you use for any purpose. I recommend that you install an all-house filter, if at all possible, to remove the organic contaminants like bacteria, algae, fungi, and viruses, heavy metals like lead, iron, arsenic, mercury, sediments, salts, soil, microplastics, and odor-causing chemicals. So this is not only good for you, but for your plumbing and your water receptacles. And it's actually a very simple process for a plumber. It's relatively low cost, just a few $100s for both the unit and the labor for installation, depending on the unit you install. And in addition, put a reverse osmosis filter for your drinking water under your sink or on whatever, on top of your sink, or there are pitchers, reverse osmosis pitchers that people can use. And this will remove all the remaining metals, pollutants, microorganisms, and make your water taste really good. Okay, let's step back. Let's go back to big picture strategy. Okay, so we've talked about the avoidance side of the equation. Keep in mind as you review what avoidance of toxins and irritants means for you personally and what you may need to do to remove these important roadblocks to your own healing. That even the easy stuff can be hard for all the reasons we've discussed before, because we grieve change even when it's small. And we grieve change when we bump into our trauma, and we're traumatized by change, period. Some things more than others. So as you review this list and you consider the changes you'd like to make, please be gentle with yourself. Honor all that makes you human. Remember the rule of small. As humans, we can only focus on one thing at a time and do one thing at a time well. The neuroscience on multitasking is that it is a complete myth. We just can't do it. We do only one thing at a time well, right? So, like, no way can I hear what you're saying to me while looking at my phone or scrolling through my email. No way can I make even small changes in my routine if I don't make time for it and pay careful attention to it, no matter how small it seems. So stay small. So how about you choose just 3 things from the list of all the things we've talked about at 3 things at a time to get yourself organized around. Then slowly create the change you need. Get these roadblocks to healing out of your way. Okay, now, how do we bolster our innate detoxification systems? So far, we've talked about ways to avoid toxins in our lives. The other powerful thing we can do to help ourselves let go of toxins is to bolster the chemistry of detoxification within our bodies. Our bodies are brilliantly designed to get rid of most of the stuff we've been talking about. And this is why we have elaborate detoxification systems designed right into our bodies. What is it? What is detoxification? Detoxification is a core physiological process designed to manage the toxins we are exposed to from both internal as well as external sources in ways that help us get rid of them to reduce their negative impact on us. Detoxification operates continuously. It's constant chemistry operating 24/7 that is highly nutrient and energy expensive. This means these detoxification processes absolutely require a constant and robust supply of energy and essential nutrients to function optimally. And when it doesn't function optimally, we're more toxic and there's more damage done to us from the toxins we're exposed to, and our healing is hijacked. Being more toxic can play a key role in everything that ails us as humans. So, detoxification is not something we can sustain with a twice yearly 7-day detox program or an occasional cleanse, colonic, or sauna. And not that these have no value. They do for various reasons. It's just that that's not how we operate. Detoxification must be a 24/7 proposition to work well for us, and it must be supported every single day. So, if your detoxification systems work better with a nutritional self-care plan you use twice a year and you feel better and you have more energy and your gut is happier and your brain is clearer and sharper, what do you suppose happens the rest of the year? Yeah, you're more toxic. And then your healing capacity is hijacked and it makes you more vulnerable. Okay? So we must think of detoxification as part of the innate intelligence of our bodies, but it can become overwhelmed by toxin exposure when that exposure is large and when there are inadequate resources, energy and nutrients to run all the business of it. When this happens, the toxins have an opportunity to interfere with our body's complex physiology, making us more vulnerable to damage, disease, inflammation, dysfunction. And we feel all that. Okay, so I think you get the point. Detoxification problems are important players in all of our most common health problems. So many of us are at risk. The typical American diet is nutrient poor, relatively speaking, contains many toxins and food irritants. This combination leads to blocks in detoxification because there simply aren't enough resources for this highly energy and nutrient expensive process to proceed. This is compounded by common medication use that can cause damage to our primary detoxification organs, the liver, the gut, the kidneys, or that overwhelm their capacity to keep up with toxin clearing. Okay? So the intensive nutrition required to best run the operation of detoxification is something we're going to spend more time on later with the Nourish section of our core resilience exploration. But for our purposes now, what we're talking about is a real food, whole food, plant-based, healthy protein and fat optimized, nutrient-dense diet that avoids all the common toxins, irritants, and sugars. Okay? And while we're all genetically unique and our nutritional requirements for optimal detoxification will differ, this basic food template will meet the needs of most. Okay, so beyond diet, how do we achieve optimal detoxification? We've got to support the path toxins take from the point of entry into our bodies all the way to exit. Exit being via breath, skin, gut, or kidneys. Toxins must be made water soluble by the liver for transport through the blood, bile, urine, sweat, and exhaled moisture. And then the flow of toxins through their respective fluids in the body and the function of their exit pathways must be supported and maintained. So these are the simple things that you can do to assist healthy detoxification. Okay, so first, these are the basics. Stay well hydrated. Water assists in the transport of toxins from all sites within the body to the point of elimination. Most people require a minimum of 2 to 3 quarts of water daily. Okay? Encourage good bile flow. Now, this will be accomplished by including healthy fat with each meal and snack. Bile is released with from the liver with the ingestion of fat in the diet. This regular release of bile allows for the toxins transformed within the liver to be released frequently and eventually eliminated from the body via the intestinal tract. Next, keep the gut and the microbiome, all those organisms that inhabit the human body, specifically highly concentrated within the gut. Keep all that happy and the bowels healthy and moving. So complete daily bowel movements are essential for proper elimination of toxins that have been processed in the liver, dumped into the bile, and then released into the intestinal tract. Adequate water intake, movement of the body to stimulate gut peristalsis or forward flow, dietary fiber, and a healthy microbiome are essential. So by following a primarily plant-based whole foods plan that includes fermented foods, or by taking a good quality multi-species probiotic daily, most people will enjoy healthy bowel elimination. For those who are not able to easily move their bowels in large quantities on a daily basis, it's important to work with a functional medicine specialist to help you with this. Additionally, supplemental fiber, magnesium, vitamin C, probiotics, melatonin, which helps with gut motility, or mild intestinal stimulants may be needed to support gut function. Here's a big one. Sleep well. Sleep is a huge player in detoxification. Our brains actually shrink while we're sleeping, which allows our cerebral spinal fluid to literally sweep the spaces around our brains free of accumulated toxins, including the toxic protein beta amyloid, which is much implicated in dementia. All right. We've talked about it already, but to be complete, eat a nutrient-dense diet. The best way to eat to support detoxification, to supply the energy and nutrients that are necessary for detoxification, is whole foods only, no processed foods, mostly plants, the full spectrum of colors, include the range of cruciferous veggies, onions, garlic, green tea, pomegranate juice, and the multitude of herbs and spices to directly support detoxification pathways in the liver. Optimize healthy protein, which is on the average adult needs 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight every single day for someone with an average level of activity. Optimize healthy fat sources, avocados, olives, coconut products, pastured meats, poultry, eggs, wild-caught fish are all examples. And eat all organic. As much as possible. Then other key supporters of detoxification: sweat through exercise, hot baths, sauna use, movement and exercise, deep breathing, and I also like to include detox support supplements. Okay. These include liposomal glutathione, typical dose would be 400 milligrams per day, liposomal alpha lipoic acid, and typically prescribe something in the neighborhood of 500 to 1,000 milligrams per day. A good B complex. And one that is already biologically active and ready to go. So we'd call that methylated forms of B vitamins, okay, every day. Minerals. A good multivitamin will have the B complex and will also have the minerals. Zinc, selenium, magnesium, molybdenum. Silymarin. So minerals, silymarin from the milk thistle plant, and green tea. Extract or powder. Okay. Oh, let's take a time out. So this was a lot today. Okay, a lot of dense material, and I'll be publishing these bullet points in an upcoming Sunday email, which you can subscribe to on my website at karenshanksmd.com. So it comes right into your inbox, or just access the information by checking in on my website. Now, back to the big picture for a moment. Okay, if you do nothing more than working on presence, right? Present moment awareness, being your witness, self-compassion, okay, and letting go. What we discussed today, as well as the emotional spiritual detoxification that we'll be exploring in upcoming videos, you'll have gone a long, long way on your healing journey. You may not have to do anything else. That's why these are number 1, 2, and 3 on the list, okay? So remember to just honor your very beautiful human brain. Keep your efforts small. Start with those basics, okay? Take baby steps towards change. Honor your own timing, okay? For the greatest success. And I just want to tell you that I'm so proud of all of you. If you're here at all, you're on a healing trajectory. And you know that how we heal our world really begins with us. And I just wanted to take a moment to say that and to honor it in each of you, in me. So thank you for being here with me. We will reconvene in our the next rendition of this video series, our Healing Life video series. We're going to be diving into Letting Go Part 2, Negative Energy and Distraction. Until then, be kind to yourself, take baby steps, to be present and compassionate towards yourself, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.